Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Nicola Hamilton here, president of RGD. And with me, I have a couple design leaders, studio owners, not necessarily, they are studio owners and design leaders working in Ontario outside of the GTA. So we're going to check in about what it's like to exist and work and be part of the design community in cities and towns outside of the Greater Toronto Area. So welcome, Phil and Melissa. I'm going to get you each to introduce yourselves to our audience. Melissa, I'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Melissa Deschênes. I'm a partner and creative director at Design to Plume. Design to Plume is a studio located in Sudbury, Ontario. We call ourselves a inclusive design circle. We're indigenously owned as well as women-owned, and much of our work is for non-for-profits, NGOs, communities. A lot of our work is in education and healthcare as well. So, what we do is a bit of branding, print design, and web design, and a few more things.
There's always a few more things.
Yeah.
So, what about you?
I'm a partner and creative director here at Studio Locale, and we're located in Kitchener. I run the studio with my partner in life as well, Robin. She's the managing partner, and we primarily focus on branding, in particular with companies that are looking to sort of make a difference or make a shift. So usually they've established and they've figured out what it is that they want to do or how they can do it, but they need to go to the next level, so they want someone to come in and help with them. So we really try to partner with all of our clients. So we cover across many different sort of sectors, and we do typical sort of branding pieces, but we move into sort of packaging as well as some narrative development and so on and so forth. So yeah, there's always little bits that get added in.
Always. Well, let's start by talking about the design community in the cities that you're in. Melissa, do you want to tell us a little bit about what it's like to live and work in Sudbury?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, living and working in Sudbury is really, really excellent. Sudbury is a beautiful, beautiful city in Northern Ontario. I mean, I always talk about how it's, one of the places where you can, go fishing the same day you can go shopping. There's just, so much to do here, whether it's outdoors or in the city. So absolutely love it. I'm not originally from Sudbury. I moved here for school, however long ago that was. And I just never left. That's just, I've lived a bit all over, and Sudbury's really been my favorite place to be. So owning a business here with the business partners and having a studio has just been absolutely wonderful. As far as the design community goes, I think it's really getting better and better. There's a big art community here. There's a lot of other designers and studios too that are doing a really great job in kind of bringing the community together. And we also have our local Sudbury Design Society too that really hosts design events. They also offer like some students some scholarships too. So yeah, it's really great.
There's a really thriving design community in Sudbury. Not when I've ever had the privilege of coming and visiting, but I hear so many wonderful things about it.
Yeah.
Phil, do you want to tell us a little bit about Kitchener-Waterloo?
Yeah, most people know Kitchener-Waterloo for probably all the tech development and innovation and things that have been kind of going on here. So it's been definitely a growth area, and I'm particular to the area. So I moved away for school and the beginning of a career, and then kind of moved back home, so to speak, just because we really, my wife and I really loved the area, and we just wanted to come back. And at the time, there wasn't as much of a design community here as there is now, which really is kind of thriving. Like the universities, like all the higher education stuff that's here is really sort of developing and growing, and they have a lot of design programs that are really sort of enabling and sort of changing some of what's happening on a day-to-day basis. And there's I almost want to say it's kind of like a fractured sort of community here, because there's so many different facets that they're exploring. There's the engineering side and the 3D side, and then it moves into the sort of the graphic side and video side. So there's technology sort of seems to be a great catalyst on moving everything forward here. So
Yeah.
it's an exciting place, but yeah, there's disparate groups. So yeah, it's just it's very frenetic. So it's not quite as tied in as much as Sudbury is. I know that for a fact. But everyone gets really excited. So when something does happen, they all go to it, and then everyone forgets about it, and then they all go to it. So it just kind of yeah.
So is it fair to say that the design community generally likes to show up for stuff?
They do.
Okay.
They're very much
Yeah.
they're very much interested in it. And their interest kind of blows with the wind sometimes too. So
Yeah. When you say there are a handful of disparate groups, what did you mean?
well, there's a really strong like industrial design aspect here. There's a very
Yeah.
strong developer network here. And when I'm saying developer, I'm meaning like, developer graphics, that kind of side, where
Yeah.
there's a lot of UI, UX, because there's so much tech industry and there's a lot of VC and new ventures here. There's a lot of incubators here. So tech really seems to kind of take over the conversation and seems to be what a lot of people get excited about. But it's great that there's so much design education happening here as well, because then people understand that the design process is the design process, and how you apply it is just a matter of how you apply it. So it's not, so anyway, we can get into, but it's exciting because there's a lot of changes and shifts, and so there's definitely opportunity, and there is that combining sort of element here that everyone's kind of sharing in that excitement.
Yeah. Well, so what about in Sudbury? Are there particular areas that folks tend to work in Sudbury?
Yeah. Mining. It's
Right,
a pretty big
yeah.
one. It's not something our studio does really any work for, but there's a big mining industry up here. Environmental, like, having to do also, there's a lot of safety, healthcare. Those are kind of the main industries, I would say, that are around Sudbury.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And we were talking earlier about how so much of the work that Design the Bloom is doing isn't actually rooted in Sudbury, which I find fascinating. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. Because we work with a lot of nonprofits, our work is a little bit all over the place, all over Canada and in the States. It does mean a lot of travel for us as well. So, but, it's a really beautiful experience getting to, Jen and Megan, my two business partners, are going to be, going to Las Vegas for a conference, and they were just in Florida, and so it's really awesome to be able to do work all over the place, even if not really any of our clients are in Sudbury. I think that's the beauty of being able to do remote work and to work all over the place, right? Is that we still have a physical office, but we haven't had a client come in our doors in years. And that's just because everything is done online and done digitally, and our clients seem to have no problem with that.
Is that a shift that happened during the pandemic or before the pandemic?
I think it was, we definitely had it before, but it's definitely been strengthened by the pandemic. The clients that we meet with are no longer in their offices either. They're meeting with us from their own homes. So definitely the pandemic has, made remote work a lot easier, I think, for everybody.
Yeah. So what about for you? Is much of the work that you're doing rooted in Kitchener?
It is, like, most of our work does stem from sort of this region. We do have some clients that are Toronto based and some that are regional based, more in sort of Southern Ontario as well. But geographically, most of our clients are at least based here. Some clients are national, but again, they're based out of here. So it's an interesting sort of take, because originally when I moved here, I was thinking, well, I don't necessarily need to be in Toronto to be able to do work remotely, and I ended up doing more work here than I ever thought I would. So it's just, we tend to just go with the flow in terms of not taking ourselves too seriously, but work seriously with our clients and figure out and let life work out.
Were you surprised at how much work was in Kitchener-Waterloo when you first made the move back?
I was actually.
Yeah.
There's definitely an eagerness. There's definitely sort of an educational side. So from as we were talking a little bit about earlier, like being in Toronto or a bigger city center, the conversation around design and design work and what it is that you're going to bring to the table and help with isn't necessarily a conversation. It's more about what is it that's going to get done. Whereas here, there's still a bit of an educational process in terms of how to work with designers, what designers can bring to the table, what the value of that can be, justifying the value for those people when there's a lot of, again, tech and industrial and engineering sort of mindsets that can, it really helps you stay on your toes and be able to explain yourself well to a client so they understand the value in that. So.
Yeah. It's interesting to sort of think about education too. I'm thinking about the sort of importance and maybe impact or influence that educational institutions have in both Sudbury and Kitchener-Waterloo. The sort of position they have within the community makes a pretty big impact in both your cities.
And very much so. I know with the college here, so with Conestoga College, like there's very much a design show. There's 2 different design programs. They are involved with the RGD as well. So it's they understand from the remoteness of where we are to sort of, we'll say, the design hub being in the major centers. So Toronto, Montreal, Calgary, Vancouver, that kind of thing. So if there's this understanding about connection and then about, people being able to branch out as well, and get that sort of work outside of your own associated biases or what you're used to in your own backyard, so that you can grow as a designer and in a practice unto itself. So go ahead. Sorry. I
was just going to say also the sort of having a design institution like Conestoga in the city, it's exciting, but there's also the challenge of pipeline, right? So many of those graduates graduate and then leave.
Mm-hmm. We've actually found, and I don't know what it's like in Sudbury, but we've found, in addition to Conestoga, there's still University of Waterloo and there's Laurier, and both of them have other different focused design programs, we'll say.
Design adjacent, yeah,
and they, it's interesting. So 5 years ago, I would say people really didn't have much interest in staying here. But now it's almost like we have to encourage students to move outside the borders of KW because, again, there's more than just what's here, and it's probably better for them to go outside, go to Toronto, go somewhere far, go to New York, go somewhere. And if you want to come back, like that's what I did. And it helps, right? It helps to move out of what you know to be able to gain the courage and understanding and develop on your own and bring a unique skill set. Because if you learn in a community and stay in a community, I don't think you necessarily can add more to the community, but that's kind of a big thing to say, because mostly if you're curious, you're gonna always be seeking out something.
Yeah. Melissa, what about for you in Sudbury? Like what is the role of a design institution, a design program, and then those graduates?
Yeah, so we have Cambrian College that has a graphic design program, and that's the one that I took. I even had the pleasure of teaching there a few years back.
Yay!
And I have to say the program is really excellent and does really encourage students to, seek out, kind of work all over. But, let's face it, it's not very often that people from the rest of Canada move to Sudbury. It's not like we're this really interesting booming town, but so I think we often encourage people to stay here. And because again, there's either work here or you can work from home and work remotely. So there's a lot of freelance work, in-house work, and of course, studio work here. So when I wanted to start my business, actually, I remember getting some feedback from a family member saying, what are you doing in Sudbury? Like, go to Toronto, like leave. And I remember feeling really sad about that because I did not want to leave. I saw a future here, and I'm really happy that I stuck it out because again, the competition is so much more difficult. Like rent is so much more difficult in Toronto. Like literally everything you're trying to do, there's so many more competing voices at the table. And so I think the beauty of being able to continue to work and, you know, expand a business in a place like Sudbury is that I have my communities, my community has my back, because you know, they want to support, you know, a woman-owned like studio in Northern Ontario. You know, I have so much support here. And I still get to do all the work I've ever dreamed of really in our studio from this location. So I encourage people that do go to school in the North to stay in the North, because there are jobs here and it's a beautiful place to work and be. I feel like I'm just pushing for it so strongly, but really you can be anywhere. We have team members. We have 2 team members actually that live in Kitchener-Waterloo. You know, we have a team member in New Brunswick. We have other ones in the North as well, but not in Sudbury. So we have staff all over, and our studio here, our head office here. So I think anything is really possible in this day and age when it comes to where to work from and where to stay, where to move to.
I think it's such an interesting perspective. It's not the narrative we hear all the time, right? Like we hear, like, if you want to be a designer, go to Toronto, go to New York. You know, if you want to be an actor, go to Hollywood, like that narrative. But there's valuable design work to be done outside of those centers too. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about starting your businesses in these places. What motivated you to actually start a business, start a design business?
I can start.
Yeah.
It was actually RGD.
Yay!
Yay.
Not planned.
Yeah, not planned. No, I swear, you know, there is no check in the mail coming from RGD for this for pitching it. But back when we started a business in 2009, I really did not think that I would ever have an entrepreneurial journey. That wasn't kind of what I was expecting at all. You know, I just thought, oh, I'm just going to get a job at a school and be a designer. Like that's what I wanted to be. But I had some, you know, my business partners who were they're really amazing women, and they're really ambitious, and I was ambitious too. I just didn't think that it was possible. I just didn't have a role model, you know, or someone to look up to that had taken an entrepreneurial journey, that I could kind of mimic that path and do that too. But RGD hosted an event that was at Cambrian College, and they brought in a female business owner who owned a graphic design studio in North Bay, which is, you know, about an hour and a half from Sudbury. And I was just so amazed by her and her journey and her studio. And I thought, you know, if she can do it, you know, so can I. And that is what, you know, took us down this path. I remember Jen looking over and saying, do you want to do that? And my answer was just like, yeah, okay, let's do it. We just started a business, you know? So it was really kind of, we didn't know what we were doing. You know, I was barely 20, you know, when we started. And I'm really happy that we continued down this path, because it's been a really great journey. So that was kind of what motivated us to start that business.
I think it's such a valuable thing. I think that seeing something modeled, being able to see yourself in a dream is important. So what was your motivation?
I didn't actually ever plan to be a business owner, but I think after moving back here, like it just kind of worked out that way. And then I started thinking, I was both of my grandfathers had contracting businesses, and I realized that my family actually had, like, that everyone was an entrepreneur in some way, shape, or form. And I'm like, I kind of like this idea. So I was like, I think I can do this. And some people were very sort of encouraging behind that. And I didn't necessarily want to work alone. I like the idea of working with others, and I wanted to, I wanted to work and create a place that others could kind of come and we could have this sort of like great sort of like little culture and sort of get along. Like my experience in Toronto was fantastic, and part of me wanted to just recreate what I learned with and grew with at that studio there. So, and yeah.
How big is your team?
Our team's 7. We have 7 people, and yeah, we've purposely sort of made sure everyone's has a bit of a different background. So we're all very diversified in who we are and what we do and how we approach things. So
Melissa, what about you? How big is the team at Design to Bloom now? Also
Yeah, we're 16.
16. Wow.
Mhm.
Wild. That's so incredible. It's funny how designers often stumble into entrepreneurship.
mhm.
I don't know exactly why that happens, but it does.
I just think there's so many more, in this industry, freelance work, right? That's
Yeah.
where a lot of people do start, and then they just get so busy that they need someone else, and then it just kind of trickles from there. I'm assuming that's not my experience, but I could definitely see how that would be a thing.
I think there's probably a piece of it too. We're constantly sort of solving other people's business problems or rolling other people's business problems around in our brain. But at a certain point, we think, hey, maybe I want to do this for myself, roll those problems around my own benefit. Okay, let's talk a little bit about unique benefits or challenges to doing work in the areas that you're in. Are there sort of common obstacles you see or big benefits we haven't talked about yet?
I think based on, I'll just jump in here. I think based on where we are right now, the benefit is that there's a lot of momentum right now in this region, and there's a lot of growth. And through that, there's just a lot of natural excitement, and that plays across all clients. So a lot of our clients aren't the traditional people that you would expect. Like, we don't cater to technology clients, we don't cater to developer clients. But again, there's so many other people out there, and there's so much work out there, just in general, like not even just this region, that it's a matter of finding the right fit and kind of going with that. So I just think there's excitement. So
Can't beat excitement.
exactly.
Yeah. What about you, Melissa? Anything come to mind?
So benefits about having a studio in Sudbury itself.
Yeah.
So I think I talked a little bit on that before, is, it's just lower cost of living, the studio is a lot less, like we bought the studio, we don't rent, so it's there's a lot of positives in that, in being able to have a bit more independence when it comes to having your own business like that, and also a really supportive community depending on where you live. But I think Sudbury is very supportive when it comes to startups. We are members of the Chamber of Commerce of Sudbury. We went through a program at the Regional Business Center when we did start our business. We received some funding. There's been so many things that really helped us get established here, and I'm really thankful for that supportive community again here in Sudbury.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit about things that you want to see more of in your area. So not necessarily obstacles, but maybe like the dream once that obstacle has been overcome. What do you want to see more of in your area?
More talent.
Okay. And how do you think how do we achieve that?
I don't know. I think hiring has always been a little bit of a struggle for us, mainly because we want to hire Indigenous folks first. So it is a little bit more difficult to hire, needing specific backgrounds, especially when, hey, we need an Indigenous developer, or let's say, for example, it's such a, niche
It's a group of people who haven't seen themselves reflected in those communities in the past, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I would say that's a challenge. Sudbury is also like about 30% Francophone too. So a lot of our work is bilingual. So we've been, also looking to hire bilingual folks too. So again, just going back to staffing.
Yeah. What about you, Phil?
I think I'm caught up with the excitement right now. I think there's just so things that are kind of happening, and it feels like everything is such in motion. Like, I think it feels like it's all happening. It's just whether or not things are going to stick the way we all hope it will. Like, there's just so much going on, and I think it's interesting because there are a lot of people moving here, and I can totally relate to what you were saying, Melissa, because yeah, before people would never be interested in kind of being in this region, and if things have kind of shifted a little bit, so people are. So two of the people that are here, our marketing director, I'll say, she's originally from Vietnam, like, and our lead front end developer, she's from South Africa, and she's living in Vancouver now too. So again, she's not even remote. So it was interesting when you said, Melissa, that your team is even sort of remote, because I think that's a bit of a reality as to what's happening. And I think that it's nice that people are not having those physical barriers that used to be, you have to be in this place. Because it's not about having to be in a place, it's just more about having a life experience. So we love the fact that we have people from other countries who are now here, and they have complete different experiences, and they have a complete different perspective that they can add that we may not have thought of, or so it adds to new conversations. And I think that I'm just in the middle of all that, so it feels great.
That's awesome. I'm so curious to see how the sort of rise of remote work impacts our design communities. Folks are moving out of the expensive city centers and working remotely. How I'm so curious to see how design communities pop up in smaller towns or cities, or if those folks, feel like their only access to the design community is virtual, and whether that's enough. I don't think we'll know for years, but it's something I think about regularly, right? Like, when everyone's working in a studio together, you're chatting away, you're going to the same events because the person who sits next to you told you to come or bought you a ticket. And what it looks like when everybody's so spread out.
Yeah, we even had a student placement. He just completed his placement with us, but one of the reasons why he wanted to do his placement here is because he wanted a physical location to learn, as opposed to it being digital. So especially when you're, a junior and you're first starting out, having that network of people to help you in a physical space is so much easier than having to schedule a meeting online and see if someone can help you at some point,
Yeah, there's really something to be said about having those little water cooler sort of talks, those little, those happy collisions, we like to call it in the studio, where it's just you need to talk to someone quick. And we're generally a hybrid office, like 2 or 3 days a week people are kind of in the studio. And we found that people after pandemic, there was still some kind of questions, kind of hesitancy, but I think just by the nature of being back together, it was almost like as a celebration, family getting back together, and everyone's kind of happy, and it just kind of like the momentum from that kind of just keeps fueling. And I don't know if it's the same for you, Melissa. Like, do you guys do hybrid as well?
Yeah, for sure. Some of us choose to be in the office all the time. Some of us work 50-50 in the office and at home. So yeah. It's going okay. I think we have a lot to learn still from it, though.
It's new, right? Like it's a totally new way of working, so it'll take some time for us all to settle into it. We're almost out of time, but I want to leave this conversation with like just a piece of advice for somebody maybe looking to work in a region outside of the GTA. Would be an interesting one for us to talk about, or maybe somebody looking to start a business, to move home maybe and start a business there, or write a different narrative and start something outside of the sort of prescribed city centers we're told we should start businesses in.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk definitely about starting a business. I think get all the help that you can get, joining wherever you are living, joining that chamber of commerce when you're first starting, joining whatever kind of business center there is in your area, getting all the help that you can get with, financing and paperwork and what you need to do as a business owner. RGD also has the business handbook that the name of it is evading me, but
the business of graphic design.
Thank you. Yes, a lot of our original forms were like completely based on, the forms in that book. And it was so helpful for us to start our business, 13 years ago. So, getting all that help you can get, applying for all the grants that you can while you have the time during the startup phase, establishing yourself with a really great business plan, getting yourself online as soon as possible, especially if you're not going to be just doing local work. Those are all really like good tips, I think, that can set the foundation of your business to kind of kick the ground running.
Yeah, focus on all the not sexy stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's good advice. What about you, Phil?
I'm not going to touch the business side. One of the things I've always said to students are like doing portfolio reviews and just sort of having, like, we've always kind of kept like an open door policy in terms of just keeping the conversations going with designers and keeping that community really strong. And we've always said, like, keep your design friends really close, but keep your non-design friends even closer, because I find that the outside perspective, like, sometimes we can become really encircled in our own sort of thoughts, and keeping all of those other outside people as influences and inspirational sources really seems to kind of really sort of help out, and actually helps lead to new ideas and new thoughts and where things can go. So I think there's a lot out there, and everyone, I honestly just encourage and just do it, because it's worth it.
I feel like I'm leaving this conversation just thinking about community and how important it is.
It really is.
Yeah. Well, thank you to both of you for joining us and sharing so much wisdom. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm sure our audience will too.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Thanks. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Take care.
Bye.